In this lesson, we'll create some coverings for the windows. So we need to create something, blinds, curtains, whatever, for these windows. I think we're going to do sort of some blinds here that we can roll up, just to give it a little bit of interest here. You can, feel free to do whatever you want, but we're going to actually build some blinds here, and I'm going to do it in 3 sections. So I just hit F4 to turn on edge faces so I can see the wireframe a little bit better. And I'm going to create kind of 3 different sections here, and then put one across here as well. The first thing I want to do is create this piece up at the top for these two to overlap some of these pieces. So I'm going to go to the front view. Actually, the left-hand view is what I want. And I'm going to start by going to create, and let's just create a box. So create a kind of a thin box, and I just want it to overlap the top of this window just a little bit. So something like that. And we can give it a little bit of height. And we can see how that looks here in our perspective. Go ahead and let's move that over kind of into position here. And obviously it needs to be a little bit thinner, so we'll go into the Modify panel and we'll modify the height, and we'll make it about an inch or so thick there. And now we want to have a little bit of a, connect it into the back wall there. So we need to add some divisions. So we'll add some segments here. Okay, and the main segments that we want to add are along the width. Okay, we can add segments along any direction. So once we've got those segments in, I'm going to go ahead and convert this to an editable poly. And now I can go to the vertex selection. I'm going to select all of these vertices, and I'll simply scale them out to basically out here. Okay, then I'll grab these guys and scale these out. And then I'm going to use these to actually pull some geometry out. So I'm going to move this out temporarily. So I can go into the polygon selection. And let's select these polys and these. So these 4. Alright, now we'll go into extrude. Okay. And we'll extrude those out. Okay, if you're going to be smoothing this, you want to add a nice little extrude in there, and then repeat that process and extrude that out a little bit more if you're going to be smoothing it. Okay, and say OK to that. You can delete those polygons. Just hit delete. Okay, and if you want to give this any kind of shape or anything like that, you could do that. I could take this edge, do a loop selection to select the top, select the side, select the bottom, and do another loop selection. So I select the front, basically the front edge all the way around, and then I can chamfer that. Give it a nice little bevel there to give it a little bit more of a little bit of an edge for the light to kick off, so it's not just a completely sharp edge, which is oftentimes a giveaway that it's CG. Okay, and then I can come in and add this in. And now let's say I want to extend this a bit beyond the wall, the window. So I can go ahead and maybe move this just over slightly. Same thing with this side, and just move it over slightly. So now we've got this little covering for the window, and you can, copy that and move it over to this side if you want to, or to this window. Well, let's concentrate now on the window coverings, and we can just do these one at a time and then duplicate it. So I'm going to simply start with another box, just create. And we'll start with a standard primitive box, and this time I'll drag it out in this way, so something along these lines, and give it just a very little thickness, so that if I go into perspective and look at this, you'll be able to see that it's fairly thin, and that's even too much right there. So I'm going to go ahead and thin that out. I'm going to remove this segment right in here. Okay, so that's going to be along the height. So take that out. Take some of these other segments out that we don't need. Just take them all out for now. And let's go ahead and dial down the thickness even a little bit more. And we'll go ahead and move this kind of over into position. And now what I want for this guy is to have these sort of panels, so slats running across here, and then kind of material in here that's kind of bent in these 3 different panels. So kind of like a blind that you might roll up. So let's go ahead and add those slats to begin with. So to do that, I want to convert this to an editable poly. Okay, convert that to an editable poly. The first thing I'll do is actually delete this top polygon. Get rid of that. And now I want to select all of these edges. So just drag across and select those edges. And now I can use connect to add some resolution in here. So I'm going to add these slats in. So I want there to be 2 segments. So this gives us 3 panels here. And this evenly spaces them, assuming you don't have any pinch or slide going. That'll evenly space those out. Go ahead and say OK. And now with these edges selected, I want to actually add polygons here, a strip of polygons instead of edges. So I'm going to go ahead and chamfer those. And I'll change the amount so that we get kind of a small amount there. Say OK to that. And now that I have these edges selected, let's go ahead and just select both of these just so that we have one of these. I have both of these edges selected. If I now go to the selection buttons right here, if I hold down Shift and click on the polygon button, it'll actually convert that loop selection or that edge selection into polygons. So that'll give me that polygon selection. And now I can come in there and extrude this. Before I do that, I want to inset it just a little bit. Okay, bring that down just a little bit, and that'll add to some of the sharpness there. So I'm going to give it a little bit of an inset, apply that. Okay, and then we'll go ahead and extrude that out. I'm going to extrude out. You can see right now it's going in that direction. I want to extrude it out along the normal. So that'll kind of take it out in all directions. Obviously I don't want to do it that high or that much. So go ahead and do a very small amount. Apply that and then do a slightly larger amount. Okay. And now if we take a look at this, you can see what that looks like. If we smooth it, you can see the kind of sharpness that we get right here, which is what we want. Okay. Alright, so let me go ahead and turn off our smoothness here. The reason that kind of looked funny on the side is that we don't have any resolution here, and we'll add that in a minute as we get going. So we need to do the same thing that we did with this guy down on this guy. So again, select these 2 edges, select the loop, Shift select the polygon button here, and go ahead and do an inset, and we've got the amount already set for this. So we'll say OK, and then we'll do an extrude. The first extrude will be a very small one, very small, and go ahead and apply that, create a bit slightly larger one, and say OK to that. And that'll give us our resolution in here. Okay, let's go ahead and add resolution along the edge, so we'll get kind of a nice look here. So I'll select one edge. I want to select this entire ring, so I'll select ring, and then we'll do another connect. This time we've got 2 segments, but this time we want to kind of push them against the sides here a little bit, so we'll use pinch to pull those out just a little bit. And you can see the difference now. If I select this and smooth it, you should be able to see that that is smoothed out just a little bit. Okay, we can up the divisions here, or the iterations, make that a little bit better. All right. So the next thing that we want to do is create some detail in here. Right now this is completely straight, very CG. We want to kind of mess this up a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and grab some edges. This time we'll grab these edges and we'll just run connect and just add basically maybe 3 segments in here and take the pinch down to 0. Go ahead and apply that and go ahead and do the same thing down here. Now, one of the cool things about these settings boxes that it brings up is if I go ahead and open this, connect, you can see that I've got these edges selected and it's running that connect with these particular settings. If I now select different edges with this open, it's going to run it on this. Okay, so we haven't actually completed this yet. If I go ahead and say apply, I can leave this open, and now any of the other edges I select, it'll automatically apply that. I'll say OK to that. And now what I'll do is just come in and kind of select some of these vertices and just move them out a little bit. Okay, so I'll just create a little bit of a bow there. Same thing down here. Create a little bit of a bow. And same thing down here. So get all these selected. And this middle one. And just create a little bit of a bow there. Now one thing that you'll notice is I still need some geometry along the very bottom. Right now it's very soft, so I need geometry also along the sides as well. Okay, so let's go ahead and finish that up. So we'll come in here and we need to do the same thing we did on these guys up here. So go ahead and grab these edges. Okay, all of these guys. We'll run connect. Go down to one segment, take this and slide it all the way down here. So it's something like that. Say OK to that. And now let's go ahead and add a chamfer to that. I'm going to dial that down a bit. Okay. Say OK to that. And now what we want to do is select these polygons on the bottom. Okay. And all of these polygons over here. Get that selected here. And select that guy. Okay, and then I just want to select, if I can, get that guy selected. There we go. Alright, so now I've got all of these selected. If I can just get everything selected at once. Let's go ahead and do a drag selection across here. It doesn't like me to do that. Let's go ahead and drag across. Zoom extents to that. And let's go ahead and add to that just by dragging across there. There we go. Okay. So once we've got that selected, let's go ahead and extrude that out. Very small amount. And apply that again and do another extrude. Something like that. So we give a little bit more weight to the bottom there. Now we also need to sharpen this up on the edges, so I'm going to go ahead and select this edge, do a ring selection, and let's do connect. And let's add maybe 3 or 4. Okay, we'll take our slide to 0, but let's run our pinch out so that we get something like that. So it's all the way out there, and that'll give us some sharpness on these edges. So now when I select this and go ahead and smooth it, this is what I get instead. And you can kind of break that up a little if you want to, just by going in with some of the vertices and kind of moving these around. But you might not want to do that until you copy this, so that they all of these don't have the exact same dents and things wherever you put them. So now that I've got this, I can duplicate this. So go ahead and get this kind of in position here. I can scale it if I need to. And let's go ahead and shift drag this across so that we now have another one here and another one here. Okay, and if you need to come in and change the scale of these, you can do that. Kind of do whatever you need to do. And that gives you something like that. So now at this point you can come in and let's say, grab some of these vertices and maybe kind of pull those in a little bit. Maybe this whole thing needs to come out a little. Okay. Maybe this middle line can come in a little bit. So here you can kind of break things up a little bit so that everything doesn't look exactly the same, which is what it is because we just copied it. So you can come in and break some of that up. We can also take this and copy this over to put over here. Okay, drop it in front of this window, and we might want to go ahead and scale this one up a bit. And this one, you can also take this and duplicate this and bring it over here as well. Okay, and move that over in front of the window, and then you can just kind of break things up. So anyway, that's a quick way of just adding a window covering across the window. In the next lesson, we're going to start some of the main furniture pieces, and we'll start with the biggest piece, the couch. Okay, and it'll take us a few lessons to finish the couch, but we'll get to do some kind of neat techniques and add a little bit of roughness to that, much like we did with the window covering. So anyway, we'll go ahead and start working on the couch in the next lesson.